Start. Right, so I just want to thank you, Coach, for hopping on the call today. This will be for LRT Sports, which the main goal is to help student athletics fully understand college athletics. So we'll just be asking some questions on recruiting and college athletics as a whole today. Let's just go ahead and dive into it. So what are some 3 key characteristics you usually look for in players when you're out recruiting?
Great question. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. We're in a pretty interesting time right now. So what do we normally look for in recruits versus right now, considering we're not out recruiting? But on any typical timeout recruiting, first and foremost, we're looking for good quality people. So their character, how they play the game, how they respect the game, how they respect their coaches, their parents, all of those things. And then I love to see passion. So one of the things that I like to recruit is people who are passionate. You can tell they love the game. So whether it's high energy or whether it's always being the first one out of the dugout or the first to give high fives, you can kind of see those things come. And those are things that are really, really hard to coach. So respect and passion. And then it becomes, I think, the piece that is a little bit more obvious, and that's what the eyes see. So do they have talent? And I think one of the biggest things for me is seeing things like speed and quickness, because they're hard to teach, again, just like the intangibles that I had mentioned before. But speed and quickness, so people, whether they have quick hands, whether they have quick feet, usually those translate into good athletes, powerful athletes. And being a sport where we rely on a lot of power, short, quick runs, we don't rely on a lot of endurance in the game of softball. Those things really are valuable, and they're the pieces that are, again, hard to coach, whereas a lot of the other things a coach can tweak and work with an athlete. So I like to find the things that are hard to teach, so that those that are a little bit easier to teach can be taught once they choose to be Santa Clara Broncos.
Yeah. And in comparison, for your recruiting style, what has changed? You've coached at Davis, UOP, UW, very wide range of colleges. So what is it like for you now at Santa Clara as opposed to some of the bigger schools that you've coached at before?
Yeah, the first thing that Santa Clara, I think, offers is really, really smart, intelligent student athletes. So that's been the case everywhere I've been, which I think is maybe a trend. I like working with people who are motivated on and off the field, in the classroom, as well as on the softball field. So that's maybe not different, but at Santa Clara, I think the uniqueness of the culture that we have, and how everybody truly cares about one another and looks out for one another. I think that that's something that's been quite special to see amongst the team itself, and just the university as a whole, and its mission to teach the entire human body, the whole body. So mind, body, and soul, the whole human. So I think that that's been really evident in the athletic department as well as across the campus, and it's where the values lie in our Jesuit institution. So I think that's something that is unique. This is the first religious institution that I've been at.
Yeah, cool. Well, sticking to the topic of recruiting, how do most athletes that you end up recruiting get on your radar to begin with? Like how do they contact you? Maybe what does that look like? What gets you on the radar to start recruiting them?
The best way is to be able to see and talk and work with them in person. So whether they show up at a youth camp from a young age and they're involved for a long time, it's really easy to get to know them over the years. So that's easiest way to get on a coach's radar. Showing up at camps, whether it's a camp on campus or whether it's a camp that someone else is putting on that maybe the coaches are out working for another institution or another organization. I think that's the easiest way to get on our radar. But there is also a ton of video. Video is so easy. Shoot it on your phone. Send it in a YouTube link or recruit profile. There's a million different ways people are sending videos, but it's so easy and inexpensive now, and everybody, for the most part, has the ability to quickly send, lessons, video me at my hitting lesson or video me during my at bat in a game. And I think that's a really great way I watch almost every video I get. I may only watch 20 seconds of the 4-minute video that they send, but pretty easy way. And then finally, when we do get out and go and watch people in person, that's where you can kind of see those intangibles. So it's really important that we go see them play on their team, in their environment, because what they're like there is going to translate to what they're going to be like on the team. How they treat their coaches in travel ball or high school will be similar to how they treat their coaches when they get to college. So I think, although it's harder to find the people when you're out watching them in person, I think that it is by far the most valuable. And just to add one more thing, I think that's pretty important is, hearing from them consistently in email format. If it's just a one-off email, it's hard to get to know the person, but consistent emails and say, hey coach, I was at your camp last week, and then remind the coach of how and why they know them. And then it helps connect the dots, because there's so many players, so many great players. And so sifting through them can be quite challenging.
Totally. Have you been able to add any new recruits since being on this COVID break, I guess you'd call it? Like, are there new girls that you're going to start looking for this summer because of what's going on right now?
Yeah, that's a cool question. I've watched more videos in the past few months than probably normal, because they're sending them. That's what the recruits are sending out right now, and it's all they really can send out. So I've seen a lot. I've tagged a lot of names and put them in a folder of which need to go see. Currently hoping that we can get out and recruit safely in August, but we're not sure yet what the NC2A say, and it's for the safety of our student athletes and our universities first and foremost. So we won't get to recruit if that's what's best for fall sports and spring sports to continue at the collegiate level. But I definitely think I've added some good names, as well as watched some video of even some younger recruits to hopefully see even in the future, maybe not this year, but looking at even 2 years down the road.
Yeah. So on the flip side, what can a recruit do to stop you from looking at them? Like, what really just causes a big X over there? I mean, is there something specific that you might see on the field or something that would cause that?
Bad teammate interactions. I think that we recognize that. No college coach wants a bad teammate. We value our team culture. So we can see those kind of things. Again, similar to what I do look for is, I look for parents being overly involved in what their kids are doing, or talking to the coaches and the recruits or the players not being able to handle those conversations, and shying away. So in the same things we look for them in the negatives, I guess. I love when I see players doing their own thing. So, being a little bit self-sufficient. So when they're all, parents are carrying their bags, or buying all their food at the snack shop, or whatever it is, I think those kind of things are like, does this person maybe not have the ability or the confidence to do it? And that kind of can trickle down. So, I mean, I like a good emotion though. I mean, if somebody maybe like pounds their glove in despite of an error or something like that, that doesn't turn me away. I think that it's okay. But if they hang their head for a long time after, not being able to recover from an error or a strikeout, that could be really detrimental to the recruiting process. But I like a good emotion. I like the pound of the bat or frustration for a hot second.
Absolutely.
It just shows that someone's passionate.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, last question in terms of recruiting, do you personally look at social media of these recruits? And if so, do you have a do or don't to go along with that?
Good one. Yes, we look. We see what they're posting. But I think the biggest thing for me now is mostly in Twitter, where I spend a little bit more of my, I guess, work side. I spend a little bit less of it in Instagram and Facebook or TikTok or Snapchat or any of that. But I spend a lot of time in Twitter doing work things. And because what you like shows up on my feed. So it's not only what you're posting, but it's what you're liking. And so I think that's the piece where people can easily, it's a quick click of a button, right? Oh, I like that. That was funny. And in that reaction, which maybe you found it funny at that moment, but the lack of thought that went into it is where we can see a lot of, I guess, troubles that we
exposed holes. Yeah.
And you know, people usually do think a little bit more about what they're typing, and less about what they're maybe just clicking on. So I think that's where it can become, you see good and bad.
Yeah, definitely good insight. I know it takes the littlest of things to go a long way.
And thankful when I was being recruited, there wasn't Twitter or Snapchat or TikTok or
today's
whatever.
world. Yeah.
So you got a tough world in nowadays, so you got to be really conscientious.
Cool. Well, all right, let's switch gears to Santa Clara in particular. So what GPA, SAT, ACT kind of level should high school athletes looking to go to Santa Clara and play softball there shoot for?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a very high academic institution. So the best GPA possible is the most important. We do consider only the unweighted GPA, whereas a lot of other universities will take the weighted GPA. So that kind of can affect people because they may have a high weighted GPA, but then their unweighted is a little bit lower. So that can hurt some potential recruits or student athletes or students trying to get into Santa Clara.
Yeah.
So, you know, I like to say if you're somewhere between a 3.6 to a 4.0 unweighted, you have a good academic profile. Nothing's guaranteed. It's a very competitive admissions process. So that's where we like to hang out in the range of, and then standardized testing. We accept both the ACT and the SAT, and so it kind of fluctuates as well. In the next 2 years, Santa Clara is not requiring it as admissions process, but the NC2A still may be requiring student athletes to take a standardized test. So we're still in the unknown right now. But numbers itself, I mean, SAT, if you're above 1,000, we would have a conversation. And then, if you're above 1,200, we're thinking more, you're in a good position to have a legitimate shot to get into Santa Clara. And then if you're in the 1,400 range, you're going to be very sought after. And then when it comes to the ACT, gosh, again, ranging, and this is kind of just estimating, but if you're above a 25, you're kind of in that range of okay, we think that you're going to be okay. You could have a good shot to get into Santa Clara. And then, when you get above the 30s, then you're kind of that, all right, we're confident in your academic abilities, and that'll translate to being successful at Santa Clara. Because again, that's what and why we evaluate those things, the GPA and the test scores, is we want to make sure those that get into Santa Clara are successful. And it takes, a high academic institution, or it takes a high academic achieving athlete or student in order to be successful.
Yeah. And I know when I was getting recruited, getting an academic scholarship on top of any athletic that you'd get was very dependent on the year and the class that you were coming into. So what do you think it looks like right now as far as the chance of your student athletes being able to receive academics as well?
Yeah, our student athletes are great, like I said, and many of them do receive academic scholarships to help offset some of the expenses that a private institution in the Silicon Valley price tag. So, it is dependent year to year, because if it's a year where all the applicants are, already in the 1,400 range of SATs, then you got to be on the higher end in order to receive the academic scholarship, because it's kind of competitive amongst the other incoming students and athletes and admissions process. So it does fluctuate. It's kind of any given year. Yet most people receive some more additional aid Santa Clara's got a lot of merit scholarships, incentive scholarships, academic scholarships, and then athletic scholarships. So there's a lot of money that kind of gets, I guess, packaged together for most student athletes or students. They definitely have a lot of money out there to help
be found. Yeah.
To offset the cost.
Cool. All right, let's switch gears to you as a coach personally. So what do you think your coaching style looks like?
Yeah, high energy. I love teaching and I love the game. So the joys to me are actually giving responsibility and initiative to the players to play the game. So as a former player, both collegiately and then professionally for a couple years, a lot of my game was dictated by how I tried new things, or how I would communicate with my coaches and come up with new ideas and how do we kind of work together. And so that kind of bled into my coaching philosophy, which is all about playing the game, not working the game. So the work goes in at practice. You grind at practice so that when the game is there, you should be confident, you should be in a flow state, and you should just go out there and play. Now that's really challenging because we play a difficult sport. So my coaching itself will hopefully continue to lead that into fruition, but it definitely takes the athletes to buy into that type of belief and excitement and I guess responsibility as well, giving the players a lot of responsibility over the decisions they make and the actions that they take.
Yeah, and with one season coming to an end, another one starting up soon, for these incoming freshmen, what do you think are some of the hardest parts of the transition from playing in club or travel ball to now playing in college?
It'll be interesting to see, because this will be my first recruiting class that comes in. So it'll be different than, the previous freshmen that I got to coach this past year. But I think, we see so much at the youth level of just telling them what to do, and whether that's the lesson world and whether that's youth sport in other sports, but they don't have a lot of confidence in their decision making. So I think that's going to be the hugest jump for our freshmen, that now you're responsible for the decisions you make. Catchers, you call the game, and that's a lot of learning that goes into that before being confident in yourself. And so I think those are going to be some of the toughest transitions, because the game's the same. The game is no different than it was. The dimensions are the same. The ball's the same. You're playing a lot of the same opponents you played all growing up. It just, when you play for me and when you play at Santa Clara, you'll have a lot of decisions that you get to make, which I think is valuable and fun. So you got to be ready for the challenge there.
Yeah. So, every year, no matter what team you've got, whatever the culture is, you're always going to have people, looking for a starting role that are on the bench, trying to get onto the field. What advice do you have for those players that, just can't seem to make it on the field, or, still really just fighting for that starting spot? What would you tell them?
That's the toughest, because everybody wants to play. They put the work in, and although playing time is not, it's not given out freely, it's earned. And so the work goes in practice, and you work really hard, and then you want the results to be shown in the game, and you may only have one opportunity, but everyone gets opportunity. There will never be a moment that a player doesn't get an opportunity to play the game. So when the opportunity comes, you got to be ready. And that's a really challenging piece. I think it's more challenging than being, someone who expects and knows that I have a starting role. I think it's harder to be ready for a pinch hit or for a late defensive replacement, or an injury comes and you got to jump in. I think that's a much more challenging role. So the advice is be ready for your opportunities. They will come. Opportunities are not equal. So stay positive. But at the same time, it's a really hard and good question. But if you love the game, and you love your team, and you love being a part of sport, sometimes you got to wait, and whether you got to wait and learn or whether you got to wait and grow, but definitely take advantage of your opportunities, because they will come. And if you're not ready, then they pass by, and then the next opportunity may be a long way away.
Yeah, and more in particular for these starters, and you not only being a player for a long time, but now on the other side of it, a coach. What do you think makes a great team captain?
Yeah. Great team captains are natural leaders. And what I mean by that is they already are being followed. So whether they have a captain role or not, if a team has captains or doesn't, because I've been on multiple teams where some have captains, some have groups, some have nothing stated officially, but there will always be leaders. So those that are being followed are the ones that I like to deem, and we work through a process of deciding who those captains are. And in that they already have their followers, I guess. So it's a matter of then getting them to follow them in the right direction. So learning what that direction is, communicating with coaches, being kind of that go-between, being good, open, honest communication with their teammates, as well as quote unquote their boss or their coaching staff. So thinking of it as kind of like almost a role that they have to be able to communicate with people above them and below them, tactfully and open and honest.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think we will be wrapping up soon. Just got a few more good questions for you. With this current situation right now, I mean, there's no right answer, of course, but what's your biggest piece of advice for student athletes and for your student athletes going through COVID and how to move forward with it?
It's been difficult on everyone. It's been difficult for probably a lot of different reasons for everyone as well. But I think recognizing that we've all had additional stress and additional concerns and uncertainties, and being okay with the fact that you're just okay, and that it hasn't necessarily been easy or great for anyone. So knowing that, then you can kind of be a little bit more graceful with yourself and accept the difficulties that have been placed on everyone. And I think with that being said, hopefully people can come out and still feel like they were safe and healthy and productive, because all of those things have been challenging for, I think, everyone. So stay graceful with yourself, and it's okay to just feel okay.
No, great advice. I think everybody can use that right now. A lot going on. Okay, I've just got two more for you. They're both fun stuff, so I'm keeping this light. But what is the funniest way that you've ever seen a potential recruit try and market themselves to you?
Funniest way?
Think on it.
I've seen some bad ones.
Or maybe the wildest thing, whatever stands out in your mind.
I mean, I've seen some some emails. Usually it's in emails, I think, that people try to, I guess, market themselves. And, I hear about their animals, or I hear about their, that they milked cows, and some of the stories, I guess, are the wildest. And but it again, it's not a bad thing, because then you kind of stayed memorable, which is important, right? Like if you're just going to try to stand out, how memorable can I be? Can I get out off the wall? Gosh, I mean, I guess I read enough emails that I can't give you one exact story, but I would say some of the most random, like stories that they may have done or lived or chose to share with, might be along those lines of just off the wall things. Like, I don't know.
I can imagine how creative people try and get. I mean, we've both been through it, but to try and just stand out to coach. I mean, it's just, especially if you're a Division I program and how much mail and stuff you're going to date.
I think the best way to stand out over anything is know what you're good at. So if you're good at being really, really funny, then go be really, really funny. And if that's why you're going to stand out. Or if you're really, really smart, be really, really smart. If you're really, really powerful, be that, right? So I think if, the off the wall might grab my attention for a minute and it might have been memorable, but it's really ultimately like, know what you're good at. If you don't know what you're good at, it's gonna be hard to sell yourself, right? So ask your grandma, she knows you're good at everything. So ask her the one best thing, I don't know.
And then of course, with all the games that you've had to go recruit at and been at yourself, what's the craziest thing you've ever seen a parent do?
Oh, rip their kids off the field, go up, like grab them by the helmet and like, I don't know what demeaning things they may have been saying, but like, like get over here. I mean, I've seen some inappropriate conversations being said in the stands, whether it's on the phone and they'd have no clue I'm sitting right behind them. Like in all directions. So we've heard it all probably. And although sometimes I say I want to know who's that parent, because that's the parent that I don't want to recruit their kid.
Exactly.
But yeah, probably a lot of it I probably can't even tell you.
Yeah, seriously.
quite inappropriate or quite embarrassing for
them
ever do such a thing or say such a thing.
Oh God. Okay. Well, I think that's all I've got for you today, Coach. Really appreciate the time, and especially on behalf of LRT Sports, just really want to give you a big shout out and thank you. Don't know if you have any final words or comments just for anyone going through the recruiting process or trying to understand more about college athletics right now.
I do your research. Know on your end who you're talking to, because being called the wrong name or the wrong spelling is annoying. But so do your research. Know what the program is about. Know the history. Know the school's history. Because ultimately it's where you're going to get a degree and it's where you're going to start the rest of your life. So find a place that is fitting to you, both directions, school and softball, because neither are guaranteed forever, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. And go on and continue the recruiting process, everyone, because it's a long one. It's a long haul, but it becomes worth it. So put your work in.
All right. Great words of wisdom. Thanks, Coach.
Absolutely. You're welcome.